Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Aftermath Hours, the weekly podcast of Aftermath.site, worker-owned, reader-supported website about video games, the internet, and everything that comes after. Aftermath is, for the moment, fully reader-supported, so if you like what you hear, you can subscribe on the website. There's a big button. It's easy to find. Or if you don't have money right now, we'd really appreciate it if you could review the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. I'm Nathan Grayson, and today I'm joined by Luke Plunkett.
Good morning, everybody.
Luke is once again up at a terrible hour and wearing a fun jacket because it's cold where he is.
It's cold, so I'm wearing a jacket to not be cold.
And I'm also joined by special guest Jordan Hoffstetter of the Tran Girlismo podcast.
Hi, everyone. It is a very gray afternoon here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's also very gray in New York. Bushwick flooded last night. It was
cool.
Sick, by which I mean people lost their cars.
It's good when that happens. It's good when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, you as somebody who hates cars probably really loves to hear that people are losing them.
It's a really fascinating thing doing my show with Victoria and I's combined political opinions, where we are very pro-car, the object, and anti-car, the infrastructure, and the needing one, and the everything else about our current American moment. So it's it's what we're talking about. Digital cars, I think, is such an interesting method of enthusiasm these days, because in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like the only responsible bit of enthusiasm.
That's a really good way to put it. Can you first give us a little bit of background on your show and also like your history as a journalist and all of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria and I started the show earlier this year to more success than either of us were anticipating, since we mostly just wanted an excuse to call each other on the phone once a week and not maybe point some folks towards Victoria's Patreon at the time. But yeah, my history in the industry goes back about 10 years, because I basically started working for a little site called Hooniverse straight out of high school. I was in my first semester of college, and a dear friend of mine, Steph Schrader, I had gotten run off the road on a moped and shattered my leg. And I had to medically drop from my semester of journalism school. So she picked me up for lunch and gave me a handful of business cards and told me that I was going to go work for these people for not a lot of money, if any money at times, which does feel like a very old-timey how people got to write about things sort of vibe. So and then I would freelance for various places, but I spent a lot of my time like reviewing the Forza series in both its Motorsport and Horizon forums and the F1 games. So I have a very deep affection for the intersection of cars and games, and try to talk about on the show as much as possible, while also talking about America falling apart and how our reliance on cars means every single automaker is on fire right now. But yeah, I think that's me. I should have actually prepared to talk about my career, but I stopped writing for money so long ago that I was just like, I don't know, I did it. It was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, also, we live in a country where jobs as a concept are about to go away. So you won't need to talk about your career much longer, except for in kind of a wistful sense of like, remember when we did that before we're all fighting over one bone in this alleyway?
It does feel very weird to have done something for like 6 to 7 years straight and then have pivoted to a completely different like career path by age 30. But I think a lot of us who came up in the golden age of look at how many magazines and websites and everything there are to work for, this is going to go great forever, to Facebook pivot to video. Suddenly I'm fighting for jobs from like the former editors in chiefs of like mastheads like
right. Now it's the
Jalopnik and
Hunger
stuff. And I'm like,
Games.
oh, okay, all right. I just don't want to. Like, as soon as I was fighting former mentors for jobs, I was like, oh, I just don't want to do that. That's fine. I'll just bow out here and go get a different job. It's fine.
Mhm. Oh, before we get into the meat of it, I have to ask, like, was the name of the podcast just immediately Tran Girlismo, or did you have other ideas? Or were you just like, we got to call it that?
I posted the text thread right around when the show started, where
Mhm.
we had the first episode like recording booked. It was the night before. It was January 6th. A date that will live in
Cool.
infamy. And we were just going back and forth like, oh, what do we actually like? What do we call this thing? And it's not a show about. I feel like it is a show about cars where we happen to be trans, and that does influence how we feel about the world and everything. But I don't know if we originally wanted to forefront the trans girl part of it, but then
Mhm.
we were just being dumb shits and texting back and forth about things, and then immediately I feel like we went through some really mangled versions of it before we realized that Tran Girlismo was just kind of perfect. And then Victoria, I went to bed, and then being on East Coast time, she's on West Coast time. I often wake up to little surprises from her in the middle of the night. And she had mocked up the logo and everything immediately, and I was just like, oh, that feels good and complete in a way where I'm like, I actually don't think we could have focus tested or done anything better. I think it's just pure gold, if we may say so ourselves.
Look, we've had to name many things. We've had to name the website itself, of course, podcast. We know lots of people that have had to name, clothing companies, game publishers. For the vast majority of people, naming something tends to be the process of settling, of like, we've picked the least terrible name we could come up with. And so as soon as I saw people advertising your guys' podcast, I would died, because I was like, oh my God, they've actually attained something. Like, they've reached for a genuinely good name. And it just I felt so happy for you guys, but then it also just bummed me out. I was like, oh, I can't believe they got to experience the joys of naming something that they get to look at and go, oh, that's amazing, instead of the rest of us who were like, we've told this story before, but we had just a Google Doc of 37 names, and we ended up just reluctantly picking the one we hated the least.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to put on verbal record. I know I've said this on Blue Sky already, but I'm so happy for you guys that you found such a good name. It's so good.
We really appreciate it. And honestly, it is a thing where I never in God's green earth would have ever worn a shirt or anything with my own merch on it or my own logo on it, but our shirts are about ready, and I'm so excited to wear my own logo like a jerk. It's gonna be great. In a past life, I also worked for a hobby paint company for a couple of years. I worked for Turbo Dork out of Austin. And anytime we had to name new paint colors, it was similarly us staring at a spoon that had a swatch of that color on it and just throwing names at it. And it was always the best day of work ever, and also the single most miserable thing I've ever experienced. So yes, many sympathies on the horrors of having to name your own thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, with all of that said, okay, let's talk about the video game, that being the new Forza Horizon game, which I think, Luke, I've actually, even though you've not published it yet, I read your piece on. It seems like, on the whole, good game, good fun driving, great graphics. And so, yeah, I was wondering, again, from a car person's perspective, did they nail it? Is this a very good racing game in your eyes?
Look, yes, with the caveat that I'm okay. Here's the background. I'm an extreme weirdo when it comes to cars. Is that I'm someone who's always been very into cars, even from a very small age, but not in the way that a lot of other people are into cars. In that I've always loved sports cars as this sort of aesthetic design-led, aspirational kind of thing where I love the look of them and I love the intent of them, but I just never got into engines and performance numbers and all those other car person things. And so I've never been a fully sicko car person until very recently, because I now own an EV. And ever since then, I've just become a full-on car sicko, but only for EVs. And so I finally learned about numbers, but only the numbers that pertain to EVs. So I'm not coming at this from a strictly like, I'm a car head kind of, what's the horsepower on this kind of scenario. But because I'm into cars as this sort of almost cultural entity, I'm always really and this is what my piece is going to be at. I'm always really frustrated by Forza Horizon because it's such a good driving game. Like, it's such a good racing game. It's not an accurate, like, it's not a painstakingly accurate simulation of driving a car, but what it is a perfect simulation of what it feels like to drive a car fast. And so to go into a Forza Horizon race, and this is, you know, I've the last few games are very similar. Like, if you played 5, you've played 6. It's just a different setting. It's just so fun. Like, backsliding out in a shitty old 90s rally car and hearing the gravel ping off your door as you go round, or the way that the camera will lurch when you like floor it in a supercar. Like, it just nails the feeling of driving a car really fast, and it's so fun. Every second that's spent just like racing against other people in this game is one of the best racing experiences you ever get in video games. And then you stop racing and everything about this game is just embarrassing to be around, and I hate it so much. I think I describe it in my piece. It's like, what if a bunch of Disney Channel actors were hosting Glastonbury is what Forza feels like. It's this immature, feels like 10, 15 years past the time period it's trying to pitch to kind of idea, where there's this festival on and you go in these events to win wristbands, and it's just obnoxiously presented, and there's non-stop fucking intrusive dialogue and these ridiculous radio stations and this character-driven thing, and like, I fucking hate it so much because I just want to be driving. And so again, I mentioned this in the piece, which may or may not be on the site by the time you listen to this, but I love Gran Turismo so much more as an overall product, because Gran Turismo comes from the same place I am coming from when it comes to cars. It just has respect for what they are. It has a love for what they are, and that's all it wants to do. It's not trying to be this fucking festival with stories, and like, it feels like I'm being advertised an energy drink, even though I'm not. Like, every screen is like, you should buy, like, man, I really want a Monster. And it's like, it's not even in this game, but that's what it feels like. And so, yeah, my overall views on Forza are like, it's just such an incredible racing experience. And I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it, because you can only disable the other bullshit around the game so much. And that's, I realize, like, I've seen that mentioned in a few reviews. PC Gamers mentions it in a really funny way, of something about there are no characters in this game. There's only a delivery for inane chat or something. Like, it's, but I don't know. Just for me personally, I just find it such a hassle that I probably will not play the game as much as I would have otherwise if it just let me drive in peace. So yeah.
I've had just a brief little touch of Horizon 6, as I am I'm trying not to spend money on new Microsoft products right now. But I did have a couple of minutes, like 30 minutes hands-on with a friend has it right now and got a code for it. So I poked around at it a little bit, and it is just 5 with a better map, and I don't know if that's awful, but this entire lead up of them going back, like talking about how they're really going back to like the origins of the franchise, had me thinking a lot about how I think like no one's ever actually made a sequel to the first Forza Horizon in a weird way, where the first one is because I think it's impossible to, like, Luke, you said it feels like 10 to 15 years culturally late, when I'm like, yeah, it sounds like the first Forza Horizon, which I actually I plugged my 360 back in for the first time in 6 years to replay a little bit of the first one, just to make sure that my thoughts were collected about it. And it's such a weird cultural artifact of like, my wife called it like peak millennial optimism. Is the first Forza Horizon, because it's like, because like I was in high school, Obama's second term about to start, like cars are the coolest they've ever been. Like, oh, it's Ferraris, it's the 458, it's all the shit you remember. And then also it's just like, yeah, it's peak EDM, it's peak like music festivals are cool and not annoying to go to. You are 18 to 35 years old and you think all of this is pretty sick. And it feels like they're trying to lean more back into that than you are running the Horizon Festival and you don't even really have to do anything other than like participate in big scripted event and click on map to progress. Like, they're such beautiful little racing games, but the wrapper has become really,
it's just
stale. Yeah.
It's even managed to inherit, and I can't remember how big of a problem this was in 5, but it's got that, I don't know if there's a specific industry term for it, but there's a sense when you play an open world game, like an Assassin's Creed game, or I don't know, Far Cry or Red Dead Redemption 2, and you get map fatigue, you get quest fatigue, where you open the map and there's just a fucking marker every 4.5 meters on the map. And here's the thing you can do. Here's the thing you can do. And it takes about 2 or 3 hours in Forza Horizon 6 for that to happen. And the whole map just gets covered in these dots. And they're like, go and do this and go to this. And I'm like, it just becomes very overwhelming in a way that might not be overwhelming if you just broke it down into a list. But the way it's presented to you and the tone it's presented to you in just becomes like, oh, this is too much bullshit. So much of these are just like tiny little side quests, basically, like car-driven side quests, and it becomes overwhelming. And like I said, that's not necessarily. It's not to say they're bad races, or it's not necessarily to say that the structure itself is not enjoyable to go through if you're super into this game. But the way it's presented through the format of this Horizon bullshit just had the effect on me of just instantly overwhelming me. In like, and to its credit, it does have a mode in there. I'll before someone who's played the game more than me starts yelling. It does have a mode in there where you can just bring up. It's like an Ask Madden. It's like you just press a button and on the D-pad, and it brings up, like, what should I do next? And it'll be this mix of like, well, here are a couple of races you have to do to progress the story. And then here's a couple of other missions that might be, I don't know what the criteria is for it. They might be nearby, or they might be best suited to the car you're currently driving or whatever. So it does have that in it. But yeah, there's just too much of it. They get carried away with the open world nature of it in ways that like I again find really overwhelming, because I don't want this from this game. I want that from the next Witcher game. I don't want it from a driving game set in a fictional snow globe diorama of Japan.
I find that I think the franchise has been really led down a really bad road, pun I guess intended, by also switching to the live service model, where it feels like the game has to be so in your face about everything that's happening, because so much of it is going to be there week by week. Like, I probably had not touched my Xbox One X died years ago, so I haven't had, like, why would I have bought a Series X or whatever, genuinely, if I wasn't, like, reviewing games. Like, there was no Forza stuff for so long that I'm like, eh. But checking back in when they ported Horizon 5 to the PS5, I was like, oh, you know what? Let's see how this is running on, like, modern hardware, and, like, let's play a little Horizon. And then just realizing how FOMO driven the entire game has been geared to become has been really devastating, because and going back to the first one, you know, it was a 360 title. It was kind of before our current live service moment. It just feels so much cleaner for the map has space. They've not constantly added events. I remember the DLC monetization being really god-awful. But other than that, it's like, I know we can't go back to the world where this game just ships with what's on the disc. And like that's it, and that's just what a Forza Horizon is. And maybe you get one or two big DLCs, but yeah, 5 and 6 have really, they're just so in your face at all times that it just, driving games, especially open world driving games, are relaxing in their best executions. Like the level of zen that I get from driving at speed or whatever in a completely safe digital environment is just, it's hard to feel that when in the corner of your eye, when you pass a new event marker, it's flashing something half the size of the screen every 30 seconds as you go through the world.
And this one does, like, this one obviously has that. If you're driving through an event on your way to a different event, that will come up and it will cover the entire screen. Press X to start this. I'm like, I'm not going to that. I've clearly set directions to go somewhere else. There is none of that zen because they constantly are putting other races in the game world alongside you all the time. And so you're constantly like driving. And if you do want that zen-like experience, which sometimes you do, there are country highways in this game where it would be really nice to just get in a Japanese taxi and just drive around and explore the map, which you do have to do. Like, you get rewarded for exploring new regions on the map. And they're just constantly showing other drivers in the game world with their fucking gamer tag over the top of their car, and they're driving ridiculously or like veering off the road into a field or smashing into a railing or something. And it's like, there is no peace, even outside of the city. Like, they've got a little tiny simulacrum of Tokyo in the corner of the map. Even outside of that, there is no peace because you're constantly getting these huge map displays and the radios. I mean, you can turn the radio off, but the radio's blaring with fucking these awful DJs nonstop, and you're seeing other players in the race world and stuff, and other cars are coming and going all the time, and it's like, just I think I literally used the word, please, like, leave me alone, like, give me some peace in my post, because that's all I want from this game. And it's unwilling to give that to you, because that's the opposite of what this game wants to do. This game wants to, like, hold your hand and overwhelm you and keep you engaged. And it's like, it's like you said, the live service. It's not a live service game, but it is very much pitched to be something you are playing every week. And not just playing alone. Like, when you enter an event here, you get, the first thing you have to do is choose whether you're going in this event solo or co-op or with other people. And it's like, how many people are doing that? Like, I just want to drive. Can there be a co-op mode that you just go into instead of just constantly being presented with this idea that you're being egged on to play this online in a persistent living space constantly with other drivers. And I don't want this to sound like an old man yells at clouds things, because like, I like my driving games like they used to be, when everything was just on the disc. It's not about the multiplayer live service aspect of the game. It's not really. Yeah, I just find it's at odds with some of the strengths of what this game's actually able to offer in terms of how you play it and what's good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played any of the other contemporary, like, entries into the overall, like, open world driving genre? Because I have been doing on the podcast explorations into what I've been jokingly call BDS compliant Forza Horizons. And in this, I have played Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, a game that feels fake. And also the Crew Motorfest, which only feels slightly less fake. But those all have the same problems as this, would be like the constant push to just do more and more and do it online. And I'm kind of glad we're out of the, like, era of ubiquitous cross-post to social media that I feel like especially Microsoft games were doing about 10 years ago. But it just, and I don't know how to make the genre, like, better other than, it does, like, I'm definitely, like, I have the nostalgia glasses fully on about Forza Horizon 1, because I'm like, wow, look at this little cultural object of, like, peak 2012 or whatever. And maybe our current cultural objects of what peak 2026 looks like is not I don't know if that's a kind thing to paint as a cultural object. But yeah, my half hour with it was it. I was worried I was going to feel like I really am missing out right now, and I just kind of don't.
No.
Like, yeah, I'll boot up Gran Turismo 7 and I'll have like, you know, the true pervert's appreciation of what these cars are as cultural objects and as aesthetic objects and pieces of design. And then yeah, I'll play this Forza eventually, probably at some point, but
Yep. I think that's actually the best way of summing up the difference between these games is that Gran Turismo 7 is built from a place of reverence, like not just respect, but reverence for the subject of the game. It's like those guys, the way the camera pans over the car you're driving while you're at the cafe is some real sicko shit. Like these people are car perverts in the best, most complimentary way. And it's like Gran Turismo exists because these guys love cars. Forza Horizon's use of cars and the way they've got so many licensed cars in the game feels like they're just co-opting the cars in service of the commercial product that Forza Horizon is offering. I get no sense of respect or acknowledgement of just how expensive and aspirational these vehicles are in Forza, or that this culture around luxury, prestige cars, not that they're the only cars in Forza. You can obviously buy a piece of shit Mazda 3 as well. Like, and some of the best cars in Forza Horizon 6 are like the joke cars. So like I'm spending a lot of time driving the newer Japanese taxi, which when you can also get it skinned. One of the things, I can't remember if 5 does this, one of the things 6 does really well is when you buy a car, it instantly gives you 20 of like the most popular community made paint jobs for it.
Yeah.
And so I instantly not only bought the Japanese taxi, I've got like to the centimeter, I've got the authentic like advertising labeling sticker situation that Japanese taxis have. So it's like that ultra authentic. That's really funny. But as coming from where I come from and what I love about cars, yeah, it's I play Forza Horizon 6 and I don't get that satisfaction or sense of respect for it that I do in Gran Turismo. And so I'm doing exactly the same thing. And I think a lot of my where I will go back and play GT7 and be like, this is what I want. But it's not, because what I really want is I want the rally feel and the sensation of speed in 6 with the culture and the presentation of 7, because I love Gran Turismo 7. I blogged about it a few months ago. I think it's a really amazing game. It's a really amazing treatment of how people deal with cars at the moment, down to the fact that you can buy prestige EVs in the game. You know, it's like my most common driven car in that game is a Polestar 5, which is a car that I want more than any other car. It's great that I can satisfy that dream in the game. I just wish sometimes Gran Turismo was more exciting because it can be very sterile. The simulation experience it's going for, by virtue of it being a simulation, can sometimes be a bit sterile. They're more interested in accurately representing the handling of a car by the numbers more than like the gut feel of what it feels like to drive a car fast. And so people like and it sounds like both of our frustrations come from like, I wish I could have the fun I have in Forza without all the bullshit. Just give me the menu screens and the shop and just let me drive like this without all this other bullshit there.
Yeah, it's I used to think Gran Turismo 7 starting with a very ornate and long video intro of the entire history of the automobile. I used to think it was quite silly, and I have immediately wrapped back around to, no, that is the level of like self-importance and reverence I want from this. The dream of something that feels like Forza but has the love of it all, of a Gran Turismo.
Do you remember Gran Turismo 4's intro where it tracked how cars are made? It's like this, Nathan, if you've never seen it, Gran Turismo 4 has this lavish sort of documentary style intro where they just show you from the raw materials being mined through to the processing of those materials, to the shipping of the materials, to the factory, to the assembly of fabrics, to like everything. And they just show you how a car goes from metal in the ground to something driving off a factory line to then something being thrown around a corner at 120 kilometers an hour. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Jordan. It's just this, like, you don't do that unless you just have the hugest amount of love in your heart for the thing that you're making the game about. And I'm not saying people involved in the development of Forza Horizon 6 do not also love their cars. I'm saying the presentation of the game that they've worked on and the things it's trying to emphasize don't speak to that to a sicko in the way that Gran Turismo does.
And yeah, it sounds like, as you're saying, one is about cars, like pure and simple, and the other is about this, like, not even existent culture around cars. It's like this made up music festival culture rapper thing that they decided would suffice.
Yeah, and it's so odd because Forza, back in the motorsport days, a franchise that we're never seeing again, I don't think. But like Turn 10, when they were in charge of the franchise, especially in like the 4 era, like I feel like they nailed that appreciation and love. Like, and sure, it's such a object of its time with the, like, how deeply Jeremy Clarkson was embedded into the DNA of Forza Motorsport 4. But, like, you know, those little videos they had of a couple of the cars and just these beautiful gliding shots over the models while Jeremy Clarkson would talk about, like, their specs and what they were like to drive and what they meant culturally. Like, that was great, and it just feels like that has fallen entirely by the wayside to feel like, I don't know, Forza Horizon is like an Instagram reel of a cars and coffee at this point. To me, it's the
short form videos. Forza Horizon was the feature length documentary. Like Forza Motorsport was the feature-length car documentary, and it's been overtaken by the short-form video version of Forza, which is Horizon, which is all about these like quick dopamine hits, event.
Right, like jingling keys in front of you to keep your attention.
Yeah. It's not a game about cars in so much as it's a game about keeping the player engaged for commercial purposes. That's just happening to use a really excellent driving system as the means to do that.
How bad are the wheel spins and everything in this one? Because that's the wheel spin system is also that thing that I feel like is really evil dopamine wise loop that the last couple Horizon games have done, where every time you level up, there's a loot box for a new car or whatever. Are they still doing that in 6? I didn't see like a level progress or anything.
You get this little like slot machine style thing, and you just press X and it spins, and you usually just get. It's the if we're going to be reverential to Gran Turismo 7 here, it also has a kind of loot box system as a reward.
It does,
so every time you level up in Gran Turismo 7, you press a button and you randomly get, sometimes you get a car, most of the time you just get money. And that's the same in Forza Horizon 6. You can get cars, most of the time you just get money, and that money goes towards buying other cars. So yeah, that's unchanged, I think, from 5. The funny thing is I can't draw a line between 5 and 6 outside of like the cultural setting of the game. They just feel exactly the same to me as like a package. It's almost like this is an expansion or a licensed update. You know, it's like, now we've got Japan you can go to from the main menu screen instead of Mexico. Which I will actually say as well, this is actually the other half. My piece that I'm publishing has 2 halves. One is that I can't stand the bullshit. The first half is that I'm really pleasantly surprised, and it's time to switch gears and be like positive about something about this game for the most part. You think about a game like this with all that bullshit, and it decides to set itself of all countries in Japan, with all the stuff we've been through in video games made by Western developers setting their game in Japan. With other there's a game came out last year maybe or early this year, and I've just had a look. It's Japanese Drift Master, and I was excited to play that, and then I played it, and it was ghastly because it was like just this ridiculous like romantic weebs idea of Japan. Like every fucking track was like cherry blossoms and anime cutscenes and stuff, and it's like I really don't like. And this I'm not like this about just Japan. I'm like this about most other cultures where it's instantly off to me when someone's just doesn't fucking get it right. So I was like, what are they going to do here? Because the Mexico stuff was pretty bad in 5. It was yikes, kind of yikes emoji stuff with the way they treated Mexico. And I think 4 was Australia, which I didn't even play because I was like, nope, not even going to.
Great Britain. 3 was Australia.
Okay, 3 was Australia. I was like, nope, not even going to.
They all run together. Yeah.
Yep, not even going to do this. I imagine then the one set in Britain was cups of tea, pip pip, hey boys, like kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Yeah, 3 big bins in the background. Like, thought there were less of those.
Super surprisingly, this one, they made a big deal pre-release of like they went and hired a cultural / car consultant to help on this game, but then they also went to Japan a lot to film or whatever. And I started driving around. I was like, fuck, they actually did it. Like they actually really did on like a Ghost of Tsushima level. This game doesn't feel like a bunch of weebs writing a love letter to Japan in terms of like its aesthetics on the track. So the game world, that kind of stuff. And so what they've built is they've built this little snow globe. This is standard Forza Horizon stuff. They've built this little snow globe version of Japan where you've got this little caricature of Tokyo in the corner, and then there's all these other bits on the map where you go to the mountains, you go to the snow, you go down to the water, you go through the countryside, blah blah. And it's like it would have been so easy for them to just fall into that bullshit of every street has falling cherry blossoms on them, and they're playing, you know, classical Japanese music with a beat behind it, and the radio DJs are trying to use Japanese words all the time and butchering them so bad it's like borderline racist. It looks amazing. It looks perfect. It's like there are shitty, like one of the things about going to Japan a lot and driving in Japan is there's hallmarks to driving in Japan that aren't the cultural hallmarks of what I've just said of like cherry blossoms on a mountain road. It's like there's so many brutal overpasses, you know, and there's so many shitty freeways with like little shitty car yards and construction sites under them and stuff. And it's really, the way that it looks is very unique to Japan because those things don't look like that in America. They don't look like that in Australia. And this game actually captures that. They have cutscenes set underneath those shitty overpasses where that's where like a racing club is meeting, and their Tokyo isn't like a caricature of Tokyo. That's not using real stores, but it looks real. Like the architecture, the layouts, everything looks real. And so it's actually, for all its other presentation and setting faults, the one that I was expected was the easiest one for them to screw up is the one they actually nailed. And I don't see many people talking about that because I don't know if people cared as much, because I look into this stuff all the time because I'm a weirdo. Yeah. I'm conditioned to do it after so many Western studios have tried doing this, from Assassin's Creed to the Ghost series to the fucking Japanese Driftmaster. It was great. It was great. And so I think they did a really, really good job of taking what could have been a landmine thing for them and actually, like I mentioned in my piece, it's on the virtual tourism scale, it's very close to Yakuza of like, what does it feel like to be driving around or being in a space in another place authentically? I've never been to Mexico, but Forza Horizon 5 did not feel like that. Forza Horizon 5 felt like a fucking Pitbull videos version of Mexico City, or, you know, like a, you know what I mean? Like a FIFA halftime show version of a city and like a music video kind of thing. This just feels, and they've got pedestrians walking past, and it's got little ramen joints and cafes that for some reason they've modeled the interior of. There are, like, if you stop and look inside a cafe, there is a very low text, like it's got a very low texture wrap on it, but they've modeled a coffee machine and a counter and like a shelf for coffee beans in a shop that you really should be going past at 180 kilometers an hour. And so like whoever's done that, these parts of the game have done a fantastic job of just going to town on building this little, like, you imagine, you know, model train dioramas when people spend more time on the diorama than the train line, and they put little, you know, there's little bins on the city streets, and there's an old man sitting on a bench, but he's like patting a dog, and it's kind of like that, but for Tokyo, but also authentic. Like it just feels, it's this beautiful little diorama of a place, but they've nailed it in a way that, yeah, I'm super surprised that a Western studio that is so obnoxious with everything else they've done in the game, the thing they could have been most obnoxious about, they actually did a really good job. So yeah, if you're interested in that, to the way that I guess a lot of people are, since people investigated so hard on Assassin's Creed and stuff, it's very cool to like just check that out.
Oh yeah.
It in my little bit of time with it, it felt very like, even the way that like roads are laid out in the little city, I was just like, oh, this actually feels like pretty true to my time in Tokyo. Granted, I was a pedestrian the entire time, or on public transit, but
yeah, because it's an open world, there are roads in there that are clearly designed for racing. But in the Tokyo part especially, there are also just roads in there to make it look and feel like Tokyo. So there's laneways that you are not going to drive down at 200 kilometers an hour in a super wide, ultra sports car. They're not there for that. They're there for you to drive through and stop in photo mode and take a cool photo, because that's what people do half the time in these games, especially in like the Tokyo parts of this game, which at nighttime in a nice car obviously do look amazing. And there are people that like car posters that I'm sure will get this game and spend the vast majority of their time just taking photos of cars, or unlocking cars only to take photos of them at Shibuya Crossing or whatever. But yeah, it's great.
One thing that I was curious about, based on everything else that we've discussed, is are there any racing games that either of you can think of that do have good like story or narrative wrappers that aren't just doing obnoxious stuff on the side that you wish you could push out of the way to get back into the meat of the action?
I'm a hesitant defender of the fact that Codemasters, may they rest in peace, I guess they're an EA studio now, so sure, but their weird story modes for the last couple F1 games have been they're not good, but I can't. If they stop doing them, I will be crestfallen. It feels as someone who loves drama and slop, like it's great, it's good.
Yes,
but yeah,
I'm so glad you said that, because I was drawing a blank because I was trying to think of the racing games, and then I'm like, oh, the F1. Nathan, this is older, but EA went really hard maybe 6 or 7 years ago, putting single player this was based on the success of what 2K was having with their NBA series.
I was going to say,
in the sort of mid 2010s, they went really hard on putting these lavish single player story modes into all their sports games. Like Madden had one that was real kind of Friday Night Lights, and FIFA had a really good one. It was really like corny soap opera bullshit, but it was about you play this kid who has to go through the ranks of like joining these clubs and then playing internationally, and there were characters put in it, but they were actually, by soap opera standards, they were actually proper characters, and it was slop, but like you couldn't, just like a soap opera, it was slop, but you couldn't stop watching, and you loved it being there. And sadly, EA have killed all of those except for F1, which every year I install it and boot it up, and it's still there, and I'm so thankful they do it, because it is it's such a cool way of wrapping a single player driving experience in a game like that doesn't have all the, like, Gran Turismo gets a pass because there's so much tinkering and car brochure shit for you to flick through between, quests, that it doesn't matter. But like F1 is just race. And so breaking that up with this like corny soap opera thing, and they've been doing it now for I guess a very long time.
They've done 3 different story campaigns, I think. I think the most recent one was like Breaking Point 3. It's also called Breaking Point, which is also pretty sick. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just nice. And every year I because it was in and then killed in the other games, every year I'm expecting it to not be there, because some guy at EA said the expenditure is not worth the return on this single player mode. This spreadsheet says that we killed it in FIFA because of X amount of resource allocation and stuff, and then it's there, so it feels like it's there because no one's noticed it, kind of. Because the F1 games aren't in the same stratosphere as like EAFC is now. It feels like they're not, like, whoever's in charge of that stuff isn't even looking anymore, and so Codemasters can be like, nobody mention it. Don't put it in, don't put it in the trailers, just put it in the game. And if no one upstairs notices, we can keep making it. And they keep getting away with it. So, yes, it's good, Nathan. It's really good. You got to play the F1 game to enjoy it, which is like a whole different podcast / story, because the F1 game has its own issues, which range from it being like, has serious performance and compatibility issues, and can also feel quite sterile, versus it's probably the only reason I get my VR headset off the shelf every year is to just play the F1 game, because it's so good to play the F1 game in VR. But yes, that was the unanimous answer, is the F1 storyline.
In what ways is it soap opera-y? What happens?
It it's been both a like family owned team drama and power struggle through the stories of drivers getting injured. They've beaten real F1 to the punch, and there's a whole drama about there being the first woman driver in our modern era in F1.
Huh.
They're really brilliant little things. They're such trash. I it feels like something like I'm sure as F1 has grown in popularity, there's more fan fiction, but it does remind me of every now and then when I'd be on tumblr.com in the mid 2010s. And I'd stumble upon F1 fan fiction on accident, and I'd be like, "Well, you're actually cooking with some gas here," but also like, I don't know if we should be doing this as people. But yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's where Netflix got the idea. Maybe Netflix were also reading those and we're like, what if we filmed this? And what if it became the most popular TV show in the world and revolutionized the sport itself? Just because someone was shipping two Formula One drivers or something.
It does truly feel like that is it is very Drive to Survive in both presentation, because I think they do I think it is at least one of them or two of them have been structured like fake documentaries, which Codemasters actually likes doing. Like Grid Autosport, whatever the last Grid game was, had like live action actors talking to camera to represent their racing story. It's a weird thing that Cody's has been really fond of doing, and I hope being owned by EA doesn't break them of that spirit ever.
Another thing that you brought up earlier that I found really interesting is this idea that, about the only like ethical way at this point to drive a car is to do it in a video game. And just, to engage with that culture in general. But on the other hand, and you mentioned this as well, Microsoft in particular, publisher of Forza, is currently under BDS sanction, is maybe the largest aider and abetter of the genocide in Palestine, in terms of the technologies that it offers. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I guess what has been your approach to kind of reckoning with this? You mentioned that you have not really played much of the new Forza. You didn't buy it yourself, all of that. But, I think because for us as like games journalists, we're always kind of interfacing with this and trying to figure out what the best course of action is in terms of our own coverage. But for you as somebody who like, that is not your main line of work, but you still have a vested interest in all of this. Like, how do you reckon with that?
It's been tough because I mean, currently being a household with a gaming PC, a couple Switches, and my PS5, it's like I don't have that. Like I was a Game Pass subscriber from day one. Like I have a lot of fondness for Microsoft's franchises, as ramshackle and dilapidated they might feel at this point. But like complying with any of these BDS asks has never been that hard, because they're genuinely, they're never asking that much. Like Disney Plus, Game Pass, Xbox, like I in my own life I don't have to deal with it that much. But when it's Forza Horizon 6, the first release in a very long time from a franchise I have a lot of nostalgia and fondness for, it was tough to like think about of like, well, I do want to do this, but also I don't currently own a car. My wife and I share a car. We're looking at picking up an EV soon. Most of my enthusiasm the last couple of years has been through getting deep into iRacing. But like, the idea of a new Forza Horizon coming out and then feeling like I shouldn't play it has been tough. But also it's gotten me to really explore like, what do I like about the genre of open world driving games? Because that's just what Forza is. Like, I have replacements for everything else Forza does for me. But like, there's not really a good open world driving game that is available and isn't about 10 years old. Like I spent too long with Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown just to give it a shot, and that is one of the saddest products I I have interacted with critically in a very long time. But also, like, I poked my head in with the Crew Motorfest to see if, like, can this scratch the itch? And it's it's all of the things I find annoying about Horizon 6 and none of the presumed positives I had with my 30 minutes of getting my hands on a controller. It's in a fascinating place to be someone who enjoys the genre, but is you're better suited by going and trying to find a 360 copy of the first Horizon at this point, I think. Unless you like can get a code or something for the new one. But yeah, I have the utmost like sympathy for anyone who has to like cover BDS boycott targets for work, because it's entirely an optional thing for Victoria and I on our own show, and I have used my exploration of the genre at large for podcast content, but like, I don't need to try to make money off of reviewing the new one. So I'm in a privileged position in that way. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I really hope nothing comes out about iRacing or Assetto Corsa's devs. Most racing devs have awful politics also, just as a rule, as do racing drivers generally. So, it's always a fraught piece of hobbyism. Don't I watched my co-host find out about the guy who runs the FIA last week, and watching her brain melt out of her ears as she discovered the abject level of corruption that is just blatant at the top of the FIA. And I'm like, yeah, this is just what being a racing fan is like these days. You just, Aramco sponsors everyone. The guy who runs everything is a psychopath. Like, enjoy feeling your moral and ethical dilemmas when you're trying to watch the cars go around or drive the cars around in a digital environment. It's a fun time to be alive.
I remember getting to introduce my wife to Max Mosley one night when we were watching something, and I was like, and it was watching Drive to Survive not long after we'd watched the season of Peaky Blinders, where it turns into like a 30s political drama involving Edward Mosley and the rise of fascism in the UK. And being able to show her the headline from The Guardian, which was, Mosley denies sick Nazi orgy, but admits secret 45-year history of sadomasochism, and then being able to say, this guy was a blood relative of the founder of the fascist movement in the United Kingdom and also ran Formula One. And, and she'd be like, really? How did that happen? I'm like, because that's racing, baby. These are the people in charge. This is not a working class sport. These people are not coming from progressive working class backgrounds. So yeah, those are solid fears about racing devs and drivers.
Dot Goblin chat just added, and his son now runs Palantir UK.
Fuck.
So that's fun.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's rad.
Yeah.
Which I read this morning that the some aspect of the government was about to sign a massive contract with Palantir, and the mayor of London blocked it from happening. I think it was to do with the CCTVs in London, and so that was a rare bright spot of news for our British listeners that their already oppressive CCTV network was not also going to be tapped into by the world's most terrifying
surveillance
state
company
watchdog shit. Cheery stuff.
Yeah. Little bright spot. Little silver lining.
Mm-hmm. I guess we should touch on us publishing a story about Forza Horizon.
Yeah,
6.
about Forza and our thinking about how we approach this.
So like, I guess the summary of our thinking is that we've obviously posted about the boycott. We fully understand what the boycott is.
We ran a major piece about it last year that I think started a lot of discourse at other video game websites that has informed their approach to it as well, and that I think also helped inform No Games for Genocide and all of that.
Yep.
So, which is a movement that is, I think, that is intertwined kind of with BDS, or that has derived a lot of their policies and approach from BDS and then iterated on them as well.
Yeah, I guess the important things to consider about that in terms of us being a specialist games media outlet is that the boycott isn't calling for a universal blanket boycott of all coverage, of all mention of this company or its games. It's a movement that's asking people to consider on a personal basis whether they believe, buying a recreational product is worth supporting what is in effect genocide. That is an incredibly important thing to consider. It's also a very personal thing for every person to consider because of the way Microsoft, and I'm going way beyond Xbox here, but just speaking about Microsoft in general, is such an integral part of so many people's lives. Like, people use Teams at work. Everyone, like nearly everyone except for Chris Person, uses Windows. It goes way beyond video games. But what's happened in video games in particular is I think there's been that core purpose of the boycott itself has elevated into this sort of understanding for some people that it means a complete exclusion of all mention and coverage of Microsoft and Xbox things in general. And it's like, not really. In practical terms, what the BDS boycott meant for games media was don't promote Microsoft.
Do not uncritically promote them. Do not
uncritically
act
promote
essentially another marketing arm for
them.
them.
Don't cover the press events, which we don't do anyway here at Aftermath. Don't just post trailers. Don't do previews. Don't be part of the commercial apparatus that is, sadly has been and still is a traditional aspect of games media where you sort of walk arm in arm with marketing through so much of a game's development. It's not precluding you from critically covering a game or talking about a game once it's out, because that's ridiculous.
Well, and even beyond that, right? Like, there's a lot of crucial stuff happening at Microsoft as a company and as a video game maker right now, including the ongoing unionization effort that's being led by CWA across numerous different Microsoft studios. And I think that we would be remiss if we did not cover that or touch on it. That's very much in line with kind of our whole thing as being a worker-owned outlet and, obviously believing very much in the rights of workers. And so, like, you've got to take that into consideration too. But also No Games for Genocide, the movement I was talking about earlier, they have a page for this. Like, if you're a journalist, what they recommend. And, if they say you're a full-time journalist, like, there's the option, certainly, to halt all coverage of Xbox published games. But there's also, like, they say, if you have to cover Xbox published games, always do so with context about Microsoft's activities and the ongoing boycott. And I think that's, like, often where we land, is if we're going to talk about a Microsoft product, again, already through a critical lens, in addition to saying, like, okay, here's how we feel about it, or here's, what needs to be discussed about it, just making sure to include, like, and this thing, by the way, is happening, this thing of global consequence that involves Microsoft, and here's how people are organizing around that. Like, not just letting that fade into the background, not just letting people forget.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, by the time you listen to this, we probably will have published a piece about Forza. It is quite critical in a lot of parts, as you've picked up from our conversations this morning. It's also quite positive about the game in aspects as well, but that's just me, like, having a quick critical analysis of a game that I've played. I didn't pay for it. So I have not actively taken part in buying something from Microsoft, but the fact remains that millions of people have made a personal decision to buy the game and are playing the game, and the game is out there, and it is a game that people are talking about, and we are a website that talks about games and covers what people are talking about, games. And so, yes, there is a piece on Forza Horizon that's going live, and it's funny, well, not haha funny, but like it's interesting that we're having this conversation now in May 2026 because we haven't had really major first-person like Microsoft game to talk about since this happened, because because their first party.
Yeah, I mean, they did like their Oblivion remake.
Yeah, but like who gives a shit? Like that's I'm talking about like a new game, like a Halo or a Forza, or whatever Microsoft has left now. Fable when/if it comes out. It's taken this long for it to come out, so it's not that we've sort of kicked that can down the road or have changed our thoughts on the coverage of it. We've had the same the stuff me and Nathan have just spoken about is the same place we've landed on this for a very long time. It's just this is the first time it's sort of come up because here's a game that lots of people are talking about that is part of games discussion at the moment, and it just happens to also have been published by Microsoft. So yes, we are going to be talking about it on the website with mention, of course, of the boycott, because again, that's everybody's personal decision, and we all have our own personal feelings on the length to which that's practical and things like that. And so, yeah, that'll be there to link to and read alongside that piece. But yeah.
And I mean, it's just relevant to the story of Microsoft right now. It is. It's impacting them financially, certainly, and definitely in terms of perception. And there's the reporting that came out of The Guardian recently about how they had been potentially misusing, like, I mean, everything about this is misuse, but it's even on their own terms, misusing like their Azure software and stuff like that. People lost their jobs, things like that, within Microsoft. So it is affecting them, certainly. And that means it will always be relevant by any standard of measure. But yeah, with all that said, I did want to hop over to another topic really fast before we move to the mailbag, which is I think, big news of the day. And Jordan, I saw you post about this too. Yeah, Destiny 2 has reached the end of the line, which is
Has it?
both shocking and not shocking, because on one hand, it's been around for 12 years. That's as long as almost any game gets these days. But on the other hand, like, it was a fixture. But then on the third hand, there are so many hands. Bungie's been going through it, and like, Bungie has lost a lot of staff in the past handful of years. Marathon is, I think, from a sales standpoint, not quite where Microsoft or Sony wants it to be. And I'm guessing that they're saying, okay, well, go back to the well, do Destiny 3. It's Destiny 2 is obviously not getting us where we want to be anymore. But yeah, what are your feelings on the fact that Destiny 2 is done for, I guess, at least in terms of, it's still going to run, obviously, but they're not going to do more live service updates.
It's a wild, because they had announced previously 2 additional expansions. And I had actually just picked Destiny 2 back up for the first time in a couple of years, just because I was having such a good time with Marathon that I was just like, you know what? Bungie games. Remember Bungie games? So I played like the campaigns that I had missed to both. The Final Shape was incredible, but like, yeah, I can see why after the Final Shape, everything kind of started to fall apart. I think the things that they were trying to do over the last couple of years since ending, like, I still think just not ending the game after the Final Shape came out and then pivoting to a D3 then was, I still, business realities are what they are, but I still kind of don't narratively understand why they tried to spin up the new story in the old game. If the idea of making a Destiny 3 is even close to real, which I don't think we know. But yeah, I can tell that it was when they kept delaying the update on what was coming for the rest of the year. I had this gut feeling that the end might be coming. I didn't realize that they were just gonna do like, oh hey, this June update's the last thing we're doing.
Yeah. Final live service update. Okay, now it's on live support. We're done.
I believe when I picked up the new expansions and stuff, I think I have paid for content through the rest of the year. Not to like, not to complain about it, but it's just like, it definitely was not the original plan. And I wonder how much of that last earnings call really does mean. I hate having to know about these earnings calls and everything, but like, it's so, the business, knowing what the business is doing is such an part of these like live service games at this point, where like you have to like, people are like trying to read the tea leaves of like Marathon player counts and D2 player counts. It's, I don't feel like fans of games should have to do that, but also I don't think fans of games should expect updates forever if the player base isn't there. And the player base had left, and Marathon's, I wouldn't be surprised if it's all hands on deck with Marathon for a year or two while a new Destiny thing is in like pre-production. But yeah, I was weirdly very sad when they said that D2 was entering its end of life phase. I graduated high school in 2014 and moved to Austin, and playing the first Destiny with friends online was like one of those ways that I like kept social before I made like new friends in Austin. So it's still just one of those things where it's like, Destiny was really important to me. I've put too many hours into it across several platforms, but it's still weird to see it ending.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And a thing you brought up that I found interesting is this idea of feeling like you need to kind of read the tea leaves or like follow along with the numbers. Luke, that's a thing you've obviously written a lot about. Like nobody needs to be doing this, especially
I
for
hate
single
it so
players.
much.
It's
single
awful.
player games, you've said, but also in general, I think that this horse race mentality applied to video games is not really healthy for anyone. But I think that Jordan, like you suggested, the one thing that feels like a use case, which is to understand why decisions happen around these games that you're invested in. Because yeah, this does feel like it sort of came out of nowhere. It's like, well, what information do we have that would explain it in tangible terms? Because the company is not giving us those terms. And it's like, okay, well, look at the numbers. The numbers plummeted, and that probably had something to do with it. But I think that's also a failure of the companies. It's like, could you just tell us, like, for real? Could you not treat us like children? Although a lot of people who follow video games act like children, so
I mean, a lot of people making those decisions have the brains of children,
Yeah.
so it all kind of evens out over.
We're
the space of
getting
things.
back to the unified everyone is 12 theory.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
But some of them are wearing suits and pointing at whiteboards and posting about AI on LinkedIn while the rest of us are just trying to play video games that we like. People shouldn't be reading into this stuff. It's fucking ruinous. Like, no one should be having to read fiscal results to influence what video game you want to play. It is a piece of art. It is a piece of recreation. If a game looks good, play it. That should be your only deciding factor. Because people doing this bullshit adds a factor that doesn't have to be there. People agonizing over Marathon's player count is impacting Marathon's player count because people it's this self-fulfilling sort of prophecy where if you could just have a game recommended to you. I'm not championing Marathon here. I don't play it, but just using it as an example. Have it recommended to you. Have it look cool to you in a trailer. Have a friend say, oh man, this latest update for this shooter I'm playing is good. You should come and check it out. You should reading coverage, watching someone play it on stream. That should be what gets you playing a video game, not forcing the average person, the average enjoyer of games to start reading fucking fiscal results and player counts is just ghastly stuff. And whenever I talked about it with single player games, people would always say, well, what about online shooters? It helps inform my decision about whether this game's viable. It's like, fuck, man. No, that's only being used because people like you were reading that stuff. Just leave it. You don't need to burden yourself with information that is not for you when it comes to this stuff. You don't need to know these player counts because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, that's me getting that off my chest. I'm glad Destiny's going away. I know that sounds brutal, but like, game's got to go. Game's been around for the game is so old. When you were mentioning that you played it graduating high school, I remember playing that game while we were still at Gorka.
Yeah.
So that's overlapping time frames. Like, we would play. I remember playing one night with like Kirk, Jason, Tina, and maybe a couple of other people. Like I think they were at Gorka, or as while we were still, pre fucking Hogan lawsuit. The game's that old.
Yeah. I remember our coverage from back. I remember like our Loot Cave coverage and stuff from Destiny 1, but like Destiny 1 was short-lived compared to Destiny 2.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, those were ancient times.
Yeah.
Yep. If you love something, let it go. No game needs to be around. I use the term very derogatively when I write it. I write forever game in caps as in the most derogatory way possible because I don't think any game should be forever. Destiny was very much a product of a moment in time. It found enormous success. It's touched a lot of people's lives. It's 12 years old or 14 years old or whatever. Let it go, man. That company is doing Marathon now. Marathon is super interesting visually and gameplay wise in very different ways. Let them cook on that for 5 to 10 years now. And I have no reporting on this whatsoever. And you guys have mentioned there's an absence of reporting as to why this is. Surely they're shutting Destiny down to put people on Marathon. And Marathon's going to become this much bigger project than it was meant to be. And Marathon will just have several different play modes. And it will just be Bungie's online shooting vehicle because it has like an art style and a setting people think is really cool, but also a gameplay focus that is quite relatively niche. It would not shock me at all if within 12 months, Marathon's full of like standard online shooter shit from
well, they've already said that they're going to like try to roll
there's more PvE sections or something. Yeah. So like the writing's on the wall there. There'll just be more game modes in Marathon's extremely cool place, which like I've seen people gnash their teeth about, but I think that's great because I'm not playing Marathon because I don't like extraction shooters. So if they turn Marathon into something more like Destiny was, cool. I might actually start playing it then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure conversations like that have informed this decision because like Destiny's It's great. We should mourn it. I think Destiny, especially like I loved Destiny 1. I didn't play Destiny 2 because I thought the decision to make it a sequel was odd. I thought they just could have kept doing the platform forever. I much prefer Destiny 1's setting. The lore was narrower. I thought its visual stuff was more interesting when it was more unique. I have very fond memories of Destiny. Also, on the one hand, yes, it is sad to see it go in the way that all of our favorite pets and relatives and everyone must die. You know, that is the circle of life. We must remember fondly all the things Destiny brought for us. It's time to go. Let's do something else that's interesting and cool.
I literally texted a friend of mine who I used to play Destiny with. I was just like, it feels like they are putting the family dog down, but it is the correct time to do so.
Yep.
Like, this is for quality of life reasons. Yeah.
Yep. We've all got the videos and photos of when it was a puppy and when it was, you know, when it was 2 and when it was bouncing around the backyard and that time we had to take it to the vet because it ate a tennis ball. We've got all those fond memories, but now it's like arthritis riddled. It's got cancer. Yeah, its back legs don't work. It needs a little ramp to get up on the bed. Like it's Sorry, Destiny 2, you old dog.
It feels like the end of an era in multiple senses. One, of course, it's just Destiny 2, the game. It has been its own era. But also, like, it was one of the standard bearers for live service. The reason that Sony bought Bungie was that Destiny 2 had been such a successful live service game, even relative to others, that they're like, okay, you guys can pump out more of these. And, like, we're entering our live service era. We're going to have a ton of different ones. And, like, you guys are going to lead that charge. Bad bet. Didn't work. But, like, that was the thinking. And now here we are at the end, or what feels like it should be the end of like the live service era, where these games drop like flies. I mean, barely even got reported on, but the Quantic Dream live service game, Spellcasters Chronicles, which is a terrible name because why is it plural? Anyway, also they pulled the plug on that this week, just after 3 months.
Quantic Dream had a new game out.
I've read from that game that it was like, they knew that it was sent to die, and it was one of those decisions where it was like, well, we're not going to cancel it. It's like when they saw the ass fall out of this market, they were like, okay, well, it's too late now. We'll release it anyway.
Send it to die.
Just in case.
Oh, definitely. And like that bears itself out, and like the union that represents a lot of those workers published a piece today where they basically said that.
Yeah. And the fact that 80% of people reading the news will be like, I didn't know this game existed.
I didn't know this game existed until
there
right now. Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like the end of an era in that sense as well. And I guess it's like interesting, fascinating, even kind of cool that Destiny 2 kind of bookended that era. It was there at the beginning and it's here at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. And as someone who's really been enjoying my time with Marathon and really remembering what Bungie's good at, but at the entire time like going like, oh god, how good would a campaign be with these mechanics and this feel in this world? I don't know if they're going to do a full campaign or whatever they mean by like player versus environment for the extraction shooter, but like I am okay enough with Destiny, my time being over, I guess. I mean, they're keeping it up indefinitely, but like who knows how long that'll actually last. But it weirdly feels like the pressure is off Marathon, at least in my mind, for the next little while. Because the chasing of player counts and numbers and the worries of like, is this game I like that's new about to get shut down immediately? Like, I think that led me to like some unhealthy play patterns with Marathon when it first came out in a way that is like really not who I have been for the last couple of years with how I game and everything. And it's if Marathon gets a chance to live and it means Destiny 2 has to die, that's fine. That's cool, in fact.
All right. With all of that said, I think it is time to move on to the final segment of our show, the mailbag, where readers can ask us questions about pretty much anything. If you would like to contribute to the mailbag, you can do so by subscribing to our member tier, which costs $10. That gets you access to the Discord, which is where the mailbag lives. And you can also hang out with people and talk about video games and really pretty much anything else. It's a good place. Anyway, first question is from Mectroid. Do you have a zombie apocalypse plan? If not, are there any other fantastically unlikely events that you've put entirely too much forethought into? Let's see, unlikely events. I mean, if we're talking apocalypses, I think that they actually are becoming pretty likely. I don't know. What's something fun?
Die as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It's an apocalypse level event. You don't want to don't hang around. Hanging around is long suffering. If there's going to be a nuclear warhead detonating over my city, I want to be underneath ground zero. Make it as quick and as painless as possible.
Vaporized immediately. I think I have too much background level anxiety to have ever truly gone down the zombie plan or anything, because I knew I feel like that's how I know myself, and that's how I start like prepping canned goods in a basement somewhere, and I can't be that woman. I just can't. That would be my wife loves me, and she loves me not doing that. So
yeah, I don't really have any applicable skills that would get me through an apocalypse type scenario, which means that just if we're talking odds, I'm likely to be deceased pretty early on. And also, I mean, I don't know, if you're spending all your time thinking about that, I think that you are failing to live in the moment. And that's what I want to do, is just enjoy life while it's good. And then when it becomes bad, peace out.
That's Destiny 2's experience as well.
Yeah. All right. From Mish, what's y'all's favorite cryptid? Like the Loch Ness Monster, Sasquatch, Mothman, Jersey Devil, etc. Not one that you necessarily believe exists, just one you like the vibes of.
As an Appalachian resident now, big fan of Mothman. He's done a whole lot for his local community, in that he's turned that one town into like an actual tourist destination, which I think is good for them. Mothman rescued a small town through being marketable. And isn't that kind of neat? And also a little nightmarish?
Yeah, I was going to say, about the only way that you rescue a small town these days. Who's the local influencer? It just happened to be Mothman.
Who's the local cryptid? Yeah, there are like cryptid towns a couple places, and I think it's a very fascinating, like, modern true crime, supernatural influenced pivot that a lot of small towns have made.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
I love the Loch Ness Monster. It's because it's so many other cryptids are so like plausibly, like the stories are like you can say, oh, Bigfoot, we just haven't found him yet, because it's hard to find things in the woods, you know, when they're good at hiding from people to animals. If they want to hide, they can hide, and it's hard for us to find. The Loch Ness Monster is like, there's a giant fucking monster in what is, if you've never been there, quite a small lake. Like Loch Ness is not the Pacific Ocean. If there was a giant sea monster in there, we would have found it a really long time ago. So the fact that someone invented that story and it persists, I just love the absurdity of sticking with the Loch Ness Monster, even though it's so implausible. It's also got the best name because it's just the place and monster. It's not like...
But it sounds so imposing. Like, if you don't know that Loch Ness is a location, it sounds pretty metal.
I mean, it is kind of metal in like an old Iron Maiden video kind of way. Like, it's a very beautiful Scottish lake. You know, I'm sure if lightning was cracking on the mountains in the horizon and there was wind on the water and stuff, it would look mildly spooky. But otherwise, the idea that this beautiful little still picturesque Scottish lake has this, and that doesn't even have a history of like eating people. You know, it's not like fishing boats go missing or like you can't take a ferry across.
No, the Loch Ness Monster is vegan. Yeah, to be clear.
It just eats whatever's in a lake. Is what's at the bottom of a lake? I don't know. Is there kelp?
Algae?
I don't know. Algae. That's it. This enormous sea monster that would probably need hundreds of kilos of fish a day to survive is actually just gently eating algae all day. Yeah, it's great. This is why you can pick holes in it instantly, and the fact that it persists.
Yeah, that it's so enduring.
It is. Yep. And the fact it's got a nickname like Nessie, it's such a cute nickname. Like it's a mascot's nickname. Like a football team, you'd have a fuzzy person wearing a fuzzy little Nessie suit at a football game or something. It's so unthreatening. Yeah, it's great.
All right, let's see. From Cavan Assam, think that's how you pronounce that. Read Nathan's Trails in the Sky article this week. What's the longest time you've stopped at approximately the end of a game you generally liked and still did actually go back and finish without restarting the whole thing? Did you regret the delay? Are there any games you're currently doing that with?
I'm currently doing it with Minish Cap, which I've been stuck on the final boss for must be 20 years.
That's
20
incredible.
plus years.
How often do you go back to it?
Every year or two. It's on, you can't see it behind my desk. I've got it on my Game Boy Micro, which the batteries, I've written a blog about this. The batteries still work, which is good because I don't think I have the charger for it anymore. I turn it on every year or two to see if it's still working, and then it is. And then obviously Minish Cap boots up, and I'm like, I'm going to try it again. And I do it, and I'm like, fuck, this boss fight is ridiculous. And I turn it off, and I'm like, I'll get you again next time. Or I won't. One day I'll turn it on, and it'll be dead. And it'll teach me a life lesson about making the most of things while they were still
But if it's
with us.
dead, if it's deed, then technically the boss is dead too.
True.
You just outlived it.
I did.
It's like a Metal Gear Solid 3. You can just sort of...
All video games are like that as long as eventually power runs out. So...
yeah.
It's a very Hitman kind of solution to the problem as well. It's like, I can't defeat this boss face to face, so I'm going to take the machine it's inside and like drown it or something. I'll get the little like, target killed pop up anyway. So yeah,
I didn't finish Final Fantasy VII for the longest time as a child because I was sad about it being over because I
did that a lot when I was a kid. Is I would just like not want to finish a game because I'd be like, well, then it all ends, so I'm just gonna stop here.
I would sometimes do that with like TV shows where I wouldn't watch the last season either, and then I realized I'm like, this is doing something really bad to my ability to like be okay with things being over. So I was like 13 with my therapist, and she's like, you should go finish Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, I should go finish Final Fantasy VII. This is how I will get over loss as a concept.
Attain closure.
Have you ever done the opposite though? Like Tears of the Kingdom, where you accidentally finish a game that you didn't want to end. Even it's like you enter an area and then it triggers a sequence and a boss fight, and then it's the end of the game. You're like, I had plans on playing this game for at least another 20 or 30 hours, but now that the credits have rolled, I don't know if I don't know if I'm actually going to go back to it or not.
I played Fallout 3 for the first time when I had it. Like, I finished it for the first time while I was sick with the flu as a kid, and I think I just straight up did not realize what the game was trying to tell me, that I was in a unrecoverable point going forward. If I continued on that quest line, and I definitely finished that game on accident on a ton of Dayquil. So that was a weird way to end that sick day.
I finished Yakuza 0 before I meant to, which is funny because Yakuza 0 also counts for my answer to this question. That is a game that I started in 2017, 2018, and did not finish until 2025. Albeit just playing it in bits and pieces and then putting it down, picking it up, all of that. But I played the bulk of it in 2020, late 2024 or early 2025. And I felt like I only scratched the surface of a lot of the side activities. I just got really into the main story and kind of muscled through that. And so I thought that I was going to have more time to do some of the side activities, especially the maid cafe stuff. Nope. And then I hit the final boss fight and rolled credits. And I was like, And so then I was like, do I want to go back and play this? And it sort of restarted that process again, and I put it back down and just never picked it back up. So yeah, my Yakuza 0 for me counts as both. All right, let's see. From Jack. I've been replaying Pocopia, and the rebuilding and restorative verbs in the game are leaking into my out-of-game psyche. I'm very chill at the moment. What else have games brought out in you between your sessions with them? So I guess how have they influenced your thinking and your overall vibe?
I used to have a thing playing Grand Theft Auto where I would pull off so many sick jumps off a bridge and stuff. I would just be driving through a metropolitan area in Canberra and see a guardrail, and then sometimes you got to drive for ages just to loop around to then take a turn to go the place you want to be. I'd drive past that road and there'd be a guardrail there, and part of my brain would be like, just smash through it, man, and go down that hill, and then you're on that road, because that's what you've been doing for the last 14 hours playing Vice City. And then I'd be like, no, I have to pay for this car, and then I would correct myself and keep driving, but it would still linger, and it also lingers whenever I'm driving behind those car transport truck with the ramp things lowered. I'm like, I could just drive straight on the back of this. No, not use it as a jump. I could just drive into the back of it and then go on an adventure, like a video when you see an animal holding onto another animal, like a little sugar glider holding onto a giant bird, and it's just going on an adventure. That's me. I could end up in Melbourne. I could end up in Sydney. I could end up somewhere else, and then my car gets sold, and then I live with someone else. It's a whole new life.
I think there needs to be way more opportunities for that kind of thing in real life. Just like there's something in front of you, you grab onto it, and it takes you somewhere. And no one, it's not socially frowned upon, and they don't get mad at you. It's just like, oh yeah, that's the adventure haver today.
Yeah, it's not a car transporter; it's an adventure truck. And if you can drive onto it, you get to have a side quest.
We should be able to isekai ourselves. Correct. Yes, absolutely. We should be able to kidnap ourselves. I guess that's what that is.
Yep. It's not, to be clear, it's not, I'm not like saying that's my new life. It's a fully contained side quest. And so I should be able to drive into this truck and meet like a couple of characters and solve their problem. And then at the end of it, I'm back in my office again, back to the main storyline. But, I've got a heartwarming new story and maybe a cool new piece of armor or something that I've earned at the end of it.
Yeah, just one really big shoulder pad.
Yeah, that's it.
I will. My thing is, if I've been playing too many racing games, I will, if I am at like a big box store or something where I have like a buggy cart, I will be like, well, what's the optimum like racing line to get around this store right now? Like I will see the little like Forza green, yellow, and red line, and I'll just be like, that's not good. It's not quite. I've played too much Tetris and I see it when I close my eyes, but like,
I do that and my wife hates it. I do racing lines all the time. On my city's Canberra's kind of famous in Australia for being full of roundabouts. We have 10,000 roundabouts. We're like, no one needs traffic lights, roundabouts everywhere. And I take I double check that there's no other cars, and then I take racing lines through roundabouts because it's heaps quicker. And she hates it. She goes, what are you doing? I said, racing lines. And that's it. That's all I'll say. Racing line. It's quicker. Straight through it. If there was a green line on the road, it would not be saying stick to your lane and go all the way around the roundabout. It would be like cross through lanes, go straight down the middle of it. It's heaps quicker, dude. You can do it.
So the one for me that persists to this day, and I mentioned it on the show before, is that playing Half-Life Alyx changed my life, in that game is in VR, and it has the concept of the gravity glove, the complement of the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, which allows you to yank things, objects in your direction. So you just like put your hand up and go like, camera, like that. And it flies into your hand, and it feels so good. It's the best feeling in the world, and it's so useful because nothing is beyond your reach, really. And every once in a while, when there's something that I can't reach, my brain still has that impulse. It says, oh, just do the yanking motion. And I played that game 6 years ago. It's still there, still lodged in there. The other one, though, that all the talk of car games reminded me of is that back in the day when I played Burnout 3, some terrible, like every time that I was at an intersection, and I couldn't drive yet, but when my parents drove me, terrible thoughts sprang forth into my mind, unbidden, of like, oh,
crash mode.
I just kind of tapped that one the correct way, then that's many lives lost and millions of dollars. My score would be so high. And it was just always there. I was like, this is a good intersection.
You'd be so disappointed when it didn't happen in slow motion, though. Like, it would all be over within 1.5 seconds. You'd be like, oh, man, all that for nothing. I didn't even get like a replay bird's eye shot of it. It just fucking happened, and now it's expensive, and I've broken both my legs.
Yeah. Well, it was the shitty ones where like you didn't use aftertouch right, and you just kind of like ran into a car and then stopped. Like,
or you just like you skimmed one and then smashed into a wall, and you're like, oh,
yeah. You're like, man, okay. Didn't even get like a bronze medal. But yeah, okay. From Seja, my beloved manual transmission 2.5L Golf is starting to show its age at 16. While I'm inclined to try and keep her running as long as I can, I've been eyeing shiny new cars. My question is, what's the most trans car on the market right now? Ideally, it should be good for surviving Canadian winters and zombie apocalypses. A theme today, apparently.
As you are Canadian, you are getting all of the EVs that are still very good that have been discontinued in the US that I want. I was telling the story the other week on the podcast about how my wife and I were trying to lease an Ioniq 6, the kind of fun, funky looking sedan. That's apparently 2025 is the last model year that is making it to American shores. But my dear Canadian friends, you're getting that, and you're also getting a bunch of cheap Chinese EVs that all rock. Just drive a bunch of EVs and see if one calls to you. Do not spend the money trying to keep your Golf alive. That is how you spend the value of that Golf twice a year, keeping that Golf alive. I love old German cars. They're not good if they need to be your only car. They're just not. Mm-hmm. It's not a good idea. It's self-harm at a certain point. But yeah, EVs are good. EVs are good. If you think they're bad still, you have fallen for culture war stuff. Like, genuinely.
Yes. They are cheap. Like, so my car, I drove a Polestar too, and it was, sticker price-wise, right, it was expensive when I bought it. I've never bought a new car before, but there weren't any secondhand ones when I bought it. The reason we bought a new expensive car that was an EV is it's cheaper overall to have an EV than it is to buy what is presumably a cheaper ICE car and then have to keep paying for servicing and I'll say gas because most people listening are Americans. I'll say gas and all your registration, all the other costs of driving a car that burns fossil fuels are more expensive than just owning an EV and plugging it in. And even if you don't, like I've got solar here in my house because I got in an infinite economic exploit loop where getting solar made my electricity bills cheaper, but then getting an EV then tapped into that and made filling my car up free, but either one of those things on their own wouldn't have been worth it, blah, blah, blah. Just plugging it into the wall, the electricity costs are still so much cheaper than putting gas in your car, especially now with like, obviously we're at crisis point pricing at the moment, but even still, like it's cheaper. And they're so much fun to drive and they're so cool and there's almost nothing to maintain on them. Any of the cheap Chinese EVs will more than like do you. I'm very famously there's a good, I can't remember which website it was. It might have been Jalopnik wrote like the Polestar 2 is the best pre-owned car on the market right now because you can get one for like 20 grand. And it absolutely is. If you can get one for 20 grand, like it doesn't need to be a top spec one. It drives fantastically. It looks cool as hell. But that's cheap, and then you just plug it in, and it's got good miles on it, and it just changes your life. There's something I've read the other day: 90% or some 90+% of people that buy an EV never go back to an ICE car because so much of the talk around them is just culture war bullshit. And once you get one and drive one and own one and have the experience of filling it up again and maintaining it, you're like, I only have to buy tires for this. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I just plug it in my house, and then I come back the next morning. And I haven't had to go to a gas station, but my car's full again. It feels like a miracle. It's like the only good technology, you know. It's everything else that we suffer for on our computers and on our phones. Our cars, at least, are in the future. Is what it feels like to have an EV. So yes, buy any. If you're in Canada, buy any like Zeekas, BYDs. I don't know what else is there. I'm just rattling off brands that are available in Australia, but I'm sure they're the same. Geelys, yep. Any of them, especially if you can get one secondhand, because like the idea of a secondhand EV, there is no engine to degrade. You're not putting miles on your transmission. You know, none of that stuff exists in an EV. So you're really only paying for like cabin wear and tear and maybe some new tires you're going to need. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely get an EV.
Yeah, Seja made an addendum, which I think we maybe already answered, but still. What's the most trans EV?
It is the new Renault Twingo. No, I'm sorry, not the new Twingo, the new Renault 5 that they've got in Europe right now. Friendly little face, happy to please, a different version of what it used to be, but you know, still the same heart underneath.
It's a Cars character. It has the vibe of a Cars character without the eyeballs.
It is a car that is your friend, and sure, it has bad Renault was French about it and decided to put Chat GPT in it for question mark reasons, but like, you know, you could just turn that off. It's fine.
All right, from Sind. What's your favorite game so far this year that you also bet no one else on the cast has played or even knows of?
I mean, you guys all know about Whiskerwood because I wouldn't shut up about it and I wouldn't stop writing about it and posting, but we work together, so it's very hard for us to play games that we like secretly because we're compelled to write about them on the website, and then everybody reads them. So my favorite game of the year is actually Death Stranding 2 is my favorite is my favorite game of the year.
Yeah, which no one has heard of.
Yeah, no one's heard of
art house director Hideo Kojima.
And Whiskerwood would be my favorite game released this year, and the closest we can get to that question because none of you have played it. So
yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to find it. I don't even remember the name of this game. There was a roguelike that I played. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there's this game called Morsels. I think it came out last year technically, but it was this weird little roguelike that is like, it's all junk aesthetics. Like, you start out, you've fallen into a sewer and you're this weird little like rat creature thing. And it's just like mechanically very obtuse in that it's not clear what anything does when you first approach it, and you kind of got to just figure things out. And like the narrative is very minimal, and the art style is unique in this gross way. I don't know. I didn't play that much of it, but I thought it was cool. I liked it. It's very unique for what it is. Yeah, I recommend that.
It's been a weird year for me gaming wise because I feel like the only new thing I've played has been Marathon, which has obviously been talked to death about. My greatest bit of entertainment has been learning how to use the audio editing program Reaper. That has been my thing that I don't know if anyone else touches, but I've spent so much time looking at waveforms in Reaper this year, as launching a podcast will do to you. Y'all don't talk about Magic the Gathering almost ever. Been playing a lot of Magic this year.
We do not talk about Magic.
No, well, none of us. Do any of us play Magic? I don't think we do.
I mean, I did when I was a teenager, but the current incarnation of the game to me would be entirely alien. I would not know my way around it even a little bit.
I've been broken.
I know that now they have. We have talked about it a little bit because Chris a while ago wrote about Vivi and like how Vivi, the Final Fantasy character, was ruining the meta.
In jail forever in standard. Yeah, I help run a game store here in Pittsburgh, and because of that, I have not been able to keep myself as a gold star trans woman, and I have started playing Magic the Gathering, as it is a thing that I can freely talk about with. And honestly, like, me and my friends will usually just call it play toys with friends, because a lot of us agreeing on the same video game for a lot of us in my Pittsburgh friend circle is really difficult. So being able to just say, hey, a bunch of us are just going to come over and play Magic, and then just, I don't know, smoke some weed or drink a beer or whatever, and then that's fine. That's good. That's just playing cards with friends, and the most trans version of such. We should just start playing Hold'em or something, though, probably, you know?
Let's see. I'm going to go to a more serious one for... Okay, yeah. From The Rock Reaper. I've always loved fake sports games and always wanted an IGPX, a manga and anime about racing mechs game. They got blades like skates, sometimes generally sick as hell. Are there any racing or sports related things you would love to play yourself? So I guess like,
do I want a real version of a fake video game sport?
Yeah, I think that's what
I was about
saying.
to say, I was like, I was reading it the other way, like what sport doesn't have a video game? That would be good.
Right.
To which my answer for that is roller derby. My wife is the captain of her roller derby team, and getting to know about that sport through watching her play and everything has been really incredible over the last couple of years. And I think it would be a fun game because it's quite simple.
Have you played Rollerdrome? Came out a few years ago. It's not it's not strictly a roller derby game, but it has very strong roller derby energy to it.
I have watched others play it because that was a topic of discussion amongst the derby team there for a bit.
I'm not the first person to suggest that. Yeah, okay. Speedball, the classic Mega Drive / Genesis sports game Speedball, which is basically like a fatal version of kind of football / soccer, like just a death sport. But everyone wore like cool Mad Max outfits, and it had this really grim sort of post-apocalyptic Running Man kind of aesthetic to it that I think would be amazing today in like a theatrical wrestling gladiators sense. Like just bring that video game to life with characters in a fake setting, but let us watch them actually play the sport. Would be cool as hell.
All right. Final question from Piscetti. You're gifted a magical, parentheses, totally not cursed, greenhouse where you can grow anything any time of year, which you can harvest anytime you want. What are you growing? Responses can be split into for profit and for pleasure as you see fit.
I mean, clearly you grow up to the legal limit in Canberra of weed because we've got a set amount of plants that we can grow, and I would get right on that limit. Thank you if you're listening, ACT Police. I cook a lot now, and my wife loves gardening, and so there's a bunch of stuff she plants throughout the year that we use all the time. Basil, chives, tomatoes, spring onions. I think you guys call them something else. Spring onions, the long.
We call them like
green. You put them in
green
Japanese.
onions or spring onions. Yeah.
Green onions.
green
Yeah,
onions.
green onions.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, those. Just that kind of on hand stuff all year. Just stuff I can run out and pick them out and then come back and put them on a pizza. Like that kind of stuff year round would be.
I would
amazing.
love to never have to worry about running out and getting like good fresh aromatics ever again. Like give me.
You never go to the store just to get chives. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you had them there, it'll make your omelets better. And so it'd be good just to have it there.
I never don't want shallots in the house, but keeping shallots in the house all the time is difficult. And then also, of course I'd grow as much weed as I could. I know who I am. It's fine. But yeah, it's all stuff that my wife will do I do most of our cooking. She's like, but that smells good. And I'm like, it's because I cook I start with aromatics every single time. So everything's going to smell good forever. But, making a trip because you are out of onions or garlic or whatever is annoying at the best of times.
I would just do Honeycrisp apples as far as the eye could see because I never get tired of them.
Like a horse. You would just go out there every day and just eat apples every day.
Yes.
Just like a horse. Yeah. Straight in the
to say
mouth.
that I don't already.
No hands, just like on all fours, just biting them straight off the tree.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can I interrogate your choice of apple? What is it about Honeycrisp that is your deciding factor there?
Oh, they're the best flavor of apple, easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Well, the easiest one to get out of the way from like any sort of ranking is the Red Delicious. Red Delicious is not a very good apple. On its best day, it's a 5 out of 10. It can be crunchy, and if there's no other apple around, sure, I'll take it. Green apples, too tart. I like them sometimes, but not really. The closest point of comparison for a Honeycrisp, at least that's common, is probably like a Fuji apple, right? And so a Honeycrisp is like, what if you buffed every stat in a Fuji apple up to like max? Like, it's crunchier, it's sweeter, it's crisper, it's just everything better. And like, I think that makes it, at least for me, the best apple. Like, it's so good and it's so refreshing. And yeah, I mean, what apple would you consider better?
Okay, so this is where, have you ever seen applerankings.com? This website.
No, I haven't, but of course that exists.
Yeah, it's Metacritic for apples, and it's a global user base rates varieties of apples and submits them, and so there's this leaderboard of best apples, and so you can take your favorite apple and look it up and see where it lands on the global scale. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Honeycrisp apples are ranked 8th in the world with a score of 83, which is excellent. Yeah. I only found this though because I looked up my favorite apple is a Pink Lady.
Yeah.
Which is I think it comes from Australia, which is why you can just get it at the supermarket. It was ranked, it's got a 90. It was ranked 3rd, which made me feel really like accidentally smug about my decision to like these apples in a way that I would be really angry about if it was a film or a video game, because I don't believe in the process of mass sampling audiences. But if it's apples and the apple I like is near the top, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say right now that I sort of went on a technicality because the number one apple is the Sweet Tango, which I've never heard of before, but a pertinent piece of information about it is that it is described as a gifted child of the spectacular Honeycrisp and the elusive Zestar. So and this nearly immaculate treasure that inspires poetry was blah, blah, blah. Anyway, those are the parts that matter. So it's a relative of the Honeycrisp, and it's number one.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. I'm now going to endeavor to find it because I think it might change my life.
So the other reason this website's amazing is not just because of the rankings and the self-validation you can get from consulting the rankings. It's everything they write about the apples is actually way cooler than that apple's Wikipedia page will say. So, for example, the Sweet Tango has a warning down the bottom saying, if you're in the Western Hemisphere, don't be fooled into buying New Zealand Sweet Tangos in the winter. They can't handle the trip. So it's like you get introduced to a sub variety of the apple with a purchasing warning about it. So you can go to the store and say, are these Sweet Tangos from New Zealand? Because I've heard they can't handle the trip. So
upon the discovery of this website, I have been on a hellish mental adventure to picture Apple review griefing and the sort of comment wars that happen when Apple rankings change. And maybe it's all bad. But also, I like a Granny Smith.
If anyone is aware of the culture wars within the Apple community, please let us know.
That is absolutely an Aftermath blog. Mm-hmm. That is an Aftermath blog if ever I heard of one.
Yep. Like, can people know that an apple is from, I don't know, Palestine? Do people know that an apple's from the South, and people from the South won't eat an apple if it's from some libtard state in the North? They're like, I'm not going to eat that apple. It's from New York or whatever. Like, I'd love to know. That would be fascinating.
Me too. Let's see. All right. I think that's pretty much our show for the week. Before we halt, though, first of all, Jordan, where can people find you?
People can find me almost anywhere at Jordan Jamboree. And the podcast is Tran Girlismo everywhere podcasts can be found. Yeah.
Also, before we go, I would like to make a little announcement that hopefully will be well received enough, which is that this is our second to last episode of the show with the live stream. At the start of June, we are going to retire the live stream component. I think we'll still use the Twitch channel for something, but it won't be this anymore. We're hoping to retool the show a little bit and turn it into something that is a little bit more uniquely our own. We are going to consult our readers and listeners about, what they want out of it. We're going to do that soon in the Discord. But yeah, I just wanted to give people a heads up so that you are not blindsided when next week we're like, this is the last one on the Twitch channel. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in this week. We will be back next week at the same time, 4 p.m. ET. That'll be the last time that we do it at that time because in the future we can record whenever we want to. Wow, crazy. Anyway, thank you for tuning in and have a good rest of your week. Goodbye.